Phoenix is a booming city.
Yeah.
But years ago, when there was no air conditioning, no one was. It was barely
too
anyone was
hot.
there. Yeah, it was way too hot.
Phoenix is crazy.
Imagine if you had an air conditioning and
Well, you couldn't. You could. I mean, you really
but
could.
people lived there. But then right when air conditioning happened, there was this. They show that they talk about this statistics over 10 years after air conditioning came. It was a madhouse. They lived there.
Yeah.
Hi, and welcome to the Flat Bill Investors Podcast. I'm Josh Zagowski.
And I'm Zach Spencer. Josh, we're mixing it up today, which is awesome. I love this. We typically have a guest on here, as if you've seen any of the episodes before now. Today, Josh and I are just going to talk about what we're up to. We get a lot of questions every day on things that we're doing, books we're reading, podcasts we're listening to or watching, and then so we just decided to interview each other. The other nice thing, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, we're going to welcome them to, I mean, they've seen a couple episodes in our new spot, but we wanted to welcome you to our new spot here in Mountain Green, in our studio.
And driving up here this morning, I was like, honestly, this is probably one of the prettiest places, like out of all of where around northern Utah. For me, when you're driving up that canyon, it's beautiful. So, and it's a great time of year. Everything's green and nice.
Tara and I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I think we actually said that 3 or 4 days ago, like driving out, like, man, it's just so pretty up here.
Yeah.
And during the fall, we think it's so pretty with all the flowers on the mountains and stuff. And it's funny because I grew up here, right? So, and I usually tell people too, is like, I live in Mountain Green. Oh, where's Mountain Green? Oh, it's, you know where Snow Basin's at? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, that's Mountain Green.
Yeah.
And I said, just like the name, the mountains are green everywhere.
And right now it really is too. I'll bet actually, so I've talked to Amber a few times about like moving up here and up in the valley, Eden, Huntsville area. And I'm sure if we got like some palm trees and some beach and like a little bit of like 90-degree weather, we
could figure it out.
I could get her up here.
It'd be cold.
Every time we talk about coming up here, she's like, it's so cold.
Yeah, it's funny.
Cold.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's pretty, so it's great.
I think every climate, I've always said this, I think every climate has its downside. You know, like we've talked about one time moving to St. George, you know, but when I visit St. George, I'm like, I love St. George. But then people always say, oh, I'd never live there because the summers are so hot. Well, also the winters, you don't get snow.
No, yeah.
So up here,
when
summers are awesome. You get snow.
Yeah, when we first moved to St. George, I had like this vivid memory because coming from northern Utah, I'd only ever lived here other than my mission had lived really here. And so it had snowed. It was like a freak snowstorm. It like laid an inch down. They closed schools. Like, everything like halts over like an inch of snow. And a guy was out front watering, like spraying the snow off his car with his hose. And I was like, what is happening? I thought I was in the Twilight Zone because it was just like, there's just never snow down there. But
yeah, even then, like when we lived in Layton, because we lived in Layton for 20 years, we had one ice storm.
Oh.
And I always heard like people in Texas.
Because that's not too common here.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when I'd hear people like having ice storms, like closing things down for days, I'm like, dude, you guys don't even know what snow is.
Yeah.
But then I saw what an ice storm is. And I'm like, that's way worse than snow.
No
I'd rather
joke.
have snow than an ice storm. That was terrible. I remember this one kid like he had this driveway and he was coming home from school. I was watching him and he couldn't make it up the driveway. He just kept on sliding down.
Oh, yeah.
Take 2 steps up.
Oh, on his feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's funny. That's like the stuff that funny YouTube clips are made from. Yeah.
Well, we want to go over so what we kind of made a few different topics for you guys, things that we're up to, books because it's funny. I was just talking to a friend this morning that I've just kind of a newer friend, the last 6 to 12 months. He I won't say his name because I don't have his permission, but he's a pool guy. He does my pool that I just had redone. And he was saying that he's been listening to our podcast. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. That's pretty awesome. And he was saying, like, the books you guys recommend and the other stuff, like, I'm very aligned to what my lifestyle is like. So it just kind of, like, number one, made me feel good. And I was telling you about it before this. And I said, hey, rather than, having a guest on, let's kind of go back and forth on stuff that we're up to, opportunities that we're doing, some hardships that we're having in our families, and things around us.
Yeah, just talk about real life stuff.
Charities,
a lot of times, a lot of times we're just in here like interviewing people, which is great. It's actually been really interesting to me because the people that I've met through the podcast now, as I interact with them, after we've met, it's been great. It's been such an awesome experience to be able to like get to know so many different people from like walks of life that I would never interact with.
Yeah, like we were saying just a couple weeks ago when we had ghost boards on. You know, Russ was awesome.
Which Russ's story was like, you would just never know.
I had no clue,
dude.
You know,
yeah, that was a really good.
I thought it was just I thought it was a business, a little side gig.
Yeah.
He's make some boards, some ghost boards, but it's number one, a legitimate business.
Well,
but the story is really cool too.
The way that it came about was sweet.
And stuff.
I know.
Cool. So first of all, Zach, what are you up to these days with business? Let's talk about business first.
Sure.
And then
a little bit of the family stuff. So, I mean, obviously we've still got the S2 Pickleball up in Boise, and you know, you and I were talking earlier, and we've been talking a lot about just some of the pros and cons of starting a business, of more passion-based businesses, and kind of passion projects versus like. I don't know if the opposite of that would be, but something that kind of more of like a necessity business versus a passion based.
Sometimes you make decisions that aren't like data driven. It's like, oh, I just feel good about it or whatever.
Well, yeah. So we had talked about that because we'd even looked at so much data when we were starting S2. We're like, okay, here's a lot of the data. And looking back, I go, hey, I was probably way too optimistic about this, or didn't. You know, maybe I was under, you know, I wasn't optimistic about certain things. And so obviously like hindsight's 2020, but there's so much, you know, over the last, we've been open 2.5 years. Yeah. We've been open for 2.5 years. And the things that I've learned through those 2.5 years have been like you probably like that's the school of hard knocks, you know, a little bit, but you would just, there's no way to learn it other than learning it.
Yeah.
And so we talk about that often, but we talk about like some of the people go, oh, what would you have done differently if you were going to do S2 again? I'm like, definitely would have done it closer to home. You know, we had a bunch of pickleball gyms here in northern Utah, and every time we'd go to Boise, there was just nothing. So I'm like, okay, there's a need there because there's just nothing there. But being, you know, a 2-hour flight, by the time you get to the airport and things, it's, you know, it's like 2.5 hours, or a 4-hour drive is just, you know, really, really far.
Yeah.
And so it's like you can't just like bounce up there on an afternoon and be, I'll just run over real quick and do X, Y, or Z. Some things like that. The other things, we've been really blessed with a good manager for the last like 1.5 years. So I haven't had to be there as much. Yeah. But you just, you know, and no fault to Tim. Tim, if you're listening to this, I love you. You've been great. Tim's never going to have conversations with people like I would, like as an owner. Like you're never going to have kind of the same, you know, driven conversations or pointed conversations or hard conversations that an owner would as a manager. So having him there has been good for the day-to-day. He's hired and fired and trained and really run the business.
It's and you know, to Tim's credit too, you know, the one thing I've always noticed too is, you know, with my ERC company is sometimes other people react differently when it's the owner. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
I know I do. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a little bit of,
you know, I get what you're saying, but
yeah, whether it's deserved or not, there is some clout there. People want, you know. So, and I think about that about.
I try my best. I've always tried my best, and actually, I have an awesome team. I think about Kirsten is one of my rock stars. Is
at ERC.
Yeah, and I've always tried to encourage people when I said, hey, talk to Kirsten, you know, and if there's an issue there, then we can talk. But I really want her to take care of the problem. Yeah, you know. Yeah. As much as possible.
And that's been awesome because there has been times where I'm like, I haven't been to Boise in like 5 weeks or 6 weeks. So I mean, it runs. Yeah. I just know that there's some things that would have run maybe better or more smoothly or with more intention. So looking back, I'm like, yeah, we would have probably done it a little closer. And then now looking at a handful of different things that we could have done. I mean, there's not too much that we would have done different, but those are definitely some of those things. I'm sure looking back at ERC, you go, or even like other businesses that maybe weren't as successful as ERC, you look back and you go, okay, what did we learn from these?
Yeah, I always say you win or you learn.
Yeah,
you know, in sports and business, because I don't like to use the word lost or losing. You know? So I like to learn from it. Now, have I lost money? Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't learned money. You know?
Yeah.
But I've learned from those experiences. Yeah. You know. Yeah. And sometimes like. You know, I have a degree, but I always say like sometimes that's part of your education that you're paying for.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, going into like a business like that because I know that with your brokerage and you've been in real estate for so long, you had agents who are technically self-employed. Now you had employees. And sometimes you got to go into your next venture and you're like, well, I'm going to do this a little differently because I see what I like and I don't like.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. 100%. So. And that's one of those things too, like shifting from having really, cause agents aren't like they are your employees, but they're really
you try to motivate them, but they're on their own.
But they're on their own. Yeah. And so to having actual employees. So it's been just really interesting to see the shift between having like employees that you're hiring and firing. We didn't really have to hire and fire agents too much in the brokerage, things like that. But it shifts your mindset a little bit and you go, okay, like, there's just a little less connection with like 1099 employees.
Sure.
When they're your real employees or like your W-2 employees, it's a lot more hands-on and things like that. So, which has been fun. It's been crazy. One of the cool things, like maybe those are some things I would have changed, but some of the cool things that we've learned through S2, I mean, we've built a community from scratch. That's one of those things, like sometimes when I'm stressed or I'm like, like there's heavy things weighing, I go, okay, on the bright side, we have this community that didn't exist before. And so now there's hundreds of people that know each other, that congregate, that play pickleball, that now we have these women's groups that have met there, that are going on vacations together. Like they've become friends now and are doing things outside of pickleball because they met there. And so there's this little community. So they all have this thing in common. And now they're doing things like in life and visiting each other's families. And we even had a couple that, this is a funny story, but that met there, started dating, and now they're married.
That's funny.
And so like they met at S2. So like their story is like, we met at S2 Pickleball, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's cool because I think about Pace Morby, a friend of mine that, he has developed a community, and he uses that word all the time for his sub-2 community, which is subject to real estate for investors in residential, not just residential for a lot of things, but Rodney said that I thought with ERC we really developed a community there, and I put in my book actually that it's my second book talking about. I remember like we had to do a layoff. We had to lay off 80 people, and we tried to make it work for like 2-3 weeks, and it finally was like came down to like we have to let 80 people go, and we said over like a day or two, someone suggested like, hey, how do we put it as a what's it called? Not a suggestion.
You have the word. It's when you choose. Like you get to choose. We'll think of it in a second.
Yeah, it'll come to me.
But
anyways, so we gave it to them to make that choice, and 80 out of 80
voluntary.
Voluntary, voluntary. I'm sure other people are like voluntary.
They're screaming at it.
While you're sitting in the car. No, so they had a voluntary riff or layoff, and 80 people did it, and then they have to do exit interviews, and so then I was still like had this like anxiety a little bit. And
did people choose it? Did people say, yeah, I'll take
all
that?
80? Oh. And then I started asking my HR department, like, how was it? How was the exit interviews? Oh, dude, everything was great. Like these people are so happy for the job. I'm like, really? And then about a month goes by, and I get a Facebook notice, former ERC specialist employees. My first thought was like, oh no.
Oh, because they created a group.
Yeah. And I was like, this is going to be bad. Like, they're just going to be crap talking us.
Yeah.
And no, it was like, hey, it was so good to work with all you guys. We want to do dinners, lunches, like maybe monthly,
awesome.
And so I was like, oh, cool. And I mean, we've had it for 2 years, and they've probably gotten together 4 or 5 times. I've been twice.
Oh, that's
cool. But it's been pretty cool,
yeah.
And it was a shock to me. More so because I was like, when I first saw the former ERC, you always hear about like the former employees getting together for a class action suit.
Yeah, so your mind immediately goes to like, how am I going to mitigate the comments or the the negativity in there, and then it ended up not being.
Yeah, because like you talk about the transition, I hadn't had a W-2 employee. Yeah, I mean, I had truck drivers, but they're still 1099. Yeah. That was the closest I ever had. But for the most part, I've been self-employed for 20 years.
Yeah,
and so that was a new thing to me. So going on to like. Next subject, because we'll come back to our families in a second, but tell me, like in the last 90 to 120 days, what's kind of some books that has been impactful for you, or a book or books?
So I have like a funny transition in the books I've been reading lately. So for like, I don't know, 7 years, it's been like strictly self-help, motivation, all the great like business books, things like that. And so I still am always listening to those types of books, but recently I've been reading. This is a funny one, Wings of Fire, because my son Grayson said, "Hey, Dad, he started this series, so I'm reading like a kid's like dragon book, which is crazy. So I'm like physically reading that. It's by my bed, so I'm reading that at night because he'll come in and quiz me. He'll say, "Hey, what part are you at?" or whatever. So it's been a way for me to like kind of connect with him a little bit. Which, for as wild as he is sometimes, I love that like he'll read every night. Before bed, he gets in bed and he reads for a few minutes, and so he's reading Wings of Fire. So I'm reading that, and then Project Hail Mary is another one that we just read. We went and saw the movie. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, it was great.
Yes and no. So actually, what's funny is Tara and I watched the first half 2 days ago.
Oh, just half?
and then we're going to watch the second half this weekend.
Okay, ran out of time a little bit?
Well, it was, our bedtime is 9:30.
Yeah, so if you start after
got
the kids
tired
are
early.
asleep, you're like,
But
okay.
it was good.
Okay, so yeah.
It
so
was
we,
very humorous, too.
Yeah, we
Very
went
good.
to the movie, and then after the movie, we're like, okay, that was good enough. Let's get the book. So we ordered the paperback. Harper I think's read it 2 or 3 times, but I was listening to that. So I've listened to like some fiction lately, which has been kind of a nice little switch up.
My partner Nate's read the book, and he thought it was awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's so good. As far as like a self-help book, I just read a book called The Comfort Crisis. And that is, it's stuff that like in your heart, as you read it, you're like, yeah, this is all true. But it's just things about like, a lot of times in our day, we go from like an air-conditioned home at 71 degrees to our air-conditioned
Is it
car.
like you're trying to be too comfortable? You get too comfortable.
Like we are too comfortable.
Yeah.
Like the depth, like in the fiber of our beings, we're meant to be like outside and like touching dirt and like working hard and like sweating and doing things, especially as men. Like you're meant to be out like killing a bear to bring home to feed your family, like. And really, as men now, what we're doing is like I said, we go from like our air-conditioned home to our air-conditioned car to our air-conditioned office.
To our air-conditioned podcast studio.
Yeah. Like there's just, and then it's like, you're never hungry. Like if you're hungry, you just eat.
Yeah.
Like you're never like, unless you're fasting or things, there's just these things that like, we just live a really comfortable life. And then that sometimes will trickle into business or into family. You get less purpose or less intentional on the things you're doing. Cause you're like, when there's a need, like if your house is on fire, you're grabbing buckets of water. Yeah. You're like doing it. When the house isn't on fire, there's not really a need to like do stuff.
Well, you know me, I'm always like a person that watches all That Built series.
Yeah.
And so I've watched it from the men that built America to, where we are today. And one of the things that was interesting to me, you talk about air conditioning, was the engineering that built America. Oh. And it talks about air conditioning actually.
Oh, really?
Where
funny.
like the state of Arizona, we all know that Phoenix is a booming city. Yeah. But years ago, when there was no air conditioning, it was barely anyone was there. Yeah, it was way too hot.
Phoenix is crazy.
Imagine if you had an air conditioning
well, you couldn't. You could. I mean, you really could.
But people lived there. But then right when air conditioning happened, they show that they talk about the statistics over 10 years after air conditioning came. It was a madhouse to move there.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that things have kind of evolved because, then I think about evolution to when you and I were kids. When literally my mom and dad would say, go outside, and they'd lock the door, and sometimes they would take 2-hour naps. And we were just outside like, what the heck? And like, it's funny because there's a stand-up comedian.
Like, bye, we need a break.
There's funny because there's a stand-up comedian named Derek Stroop, and in his piece he talks about like, our parents just put us outside, and sometimes you just sit there for a bit, and you know what? I'm looking at my brother. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to send it. And just punch him in the arm.
Just cause.
And then the parents were like, what are you doing? You let us out here for 2 hours. Yeah. It's just kind of, it's a funny bit. But no, then I think about the evolution to now. It's like, there's been times I'm like trying to kick my kids out the house to like, get out.
Go out, get some air. Yeah.
And so it is a little bit much different. And we're talking about the comfort crisis. You get too comfortable.
Yeah. We were joking yesterday with, we had our 6th grade, like field day thing for Sadie. And we're joking with his mom because her son will get on his bike and like ride like far away from the house. And I was like, dude, that was my whole life growing up. Oh, like we would just.
It was a conversation yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
So no, I have one yesterday too.
Oh, that's so funny. So, so we were joking because the mentality has shifted because she was like, he's like way down. Like he rode his bike to a McDonald's that was like probably 2 miles away from their house, but like on busy roads and all these things. And in my head, I'm like, dude, when I was 13, 11, 12, dude, we would ride all over. Anyway,
oh my gosh.
But here's the funny thing. I was like, he has his watch though and his phone, right? And she's like, well, yeah, he's got a phone and a watch. So I said, well, at least you'll know like where he was when he got kidnapped. So we're good.
That's a good way to put it.
Because that's like the fear of these moms is like, is he going to get hurt? Is he going to get kidnapped? Like all the, I'm like, I don't think that was even like a conversation when I was little. Like that just wasn't a thing. So it made us kind of joke about it.
So yesterday I was volunteering for my daughter's 5th, 6th grade field day. So she's in 5th grade, and I was volunteering, and I ran into the vice president or the vice principal, which I went to school with him, Bill Long.
Okay.
And we were sitting there talking, and he was telling me that it was kind of a gloomy day yesterday. It was cold, and plus they did it from 8 to 10, like in the morning here,
and it was like raining.
Yeah, it was raining. It rained for a good 30 minutes. But he talked about like they used to do bike rides. And he goes, remember the 6th grade bike ride? I'm like, oh yeah. My teacher here in Morgan was Mr. Russell, Don Russell. And he was an older guy, like meaning like he was in his 60s. He was at the very end of his tenure. And he would always do a 6th grade bike, and he would ride the bike. Yeah. And we'd ride it from Morgan Middle School all the way up to East Canyon.
Oh, wow. And so like a big bike ride.
Yes.
That's not like easy.
I'm not finished. Oh, so that's the bike ride. Well, 5 or 6 of us here in Mount Green, that morning, we left at 5 in the morning, and we drove our bikes to Morgan Middle School because my mom worked. So there was no way I can get the bike there outside of riding my bike. So I rode my bike from Mountain Green all the way to Morgan Middle School that morning.
And then
we did it.
Oh my gosh.
And then after we came back, then we had to ride home.
And it's always windy also.
And I think it's like 10 to 15 miles to Morgan.
That's a good haul.
So he was like, you did that? I'm like, oh, imagine if I'd asked my kids to do that.
I mean, they probably could.
Honestly, I don't know if I could do it today.
Yeah.
But anyways, I did that on a Huffy. Like there was no speeds. It was just one speed.
You're just trucking it.
Anyways.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Those are good times though. So my book.
Yeah, let's hear.
Book or books. So I actually listened to 2 books probably the last 90 days. And I actually talked about this on a reel just about a couple weeks ago called The Human Connection.
Okay.
I re-listened to it.
And we talked about this. You read that a while, maybe a year?
No,
2 years? Long time ago?
Like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay, because you've mentioned it anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I really listened to it because I've always had that go-giver mindset, but I actually was, I'm coming out with a second book called Building Relationship Capital, and I wanted to kind of get in that mindset of like other books that I've kind of listened to that kind of helps build that, and The Human Connection was one of them. So the guy Cody Bateman's his name. He's here in Utah actually. He started a company called sendoutcards.com, which is an MLM. And there's other companies now that will kind of have that service. And so I actually subscribed to a service about 2 weeks ago when I re-listened to it. But what kind of gave me perspective is like last week, I went to a golf tournament with my one of the Utah business groups I'm part of called Truss. And I was paired with 3 other guys. One guy is a luxury home builder in Utah County. Another guy has multiple businesses. The main thing he does is he factors money and does really well. And then another guy is a CFO for a capital group that they do investing and stuff like that. So, because I listened to the book, my whole mindset was like, oh, I want to make sure I reach out to him after, just say, hey, it was great to hang out with you. It was great to get to know you. And, in the thing it says send out cards. I don't have their address, but I ended up getting their cell phone, text them, and they text me back. And, and so that's something I'm going to continue to kind of like that human connection. Yeah. So that's one thing. 2 is Bluefishing, which is very similar to Human Connection. So if you haven't heard Bluefishing, definitely listen to it. My friend Chris Patch recommended that to me about 2-3 years ago.
I think, didn't he on our podcast?
Did he talk about it?
Yeah, he talked about it when we had him on there. So.
Yeah, so the great book. I re-listened to it again, and it basically kind of is around the same premise. It's this guy that started this company called Bluefishing, and the reason why he calls it Bluefishing is because of Dr. Seuss, red fish, blue fish.
Oh yeah,
and I forget why exactly, but it's something to do with the Dr. Seuss, yellowfish, whatever.
The one fish, two fish,
red
fish,
that
blue
book.
fish. Yeah,
yeah. So that's why he calls it Bluefishing, and it's the same thing, like kind of building a human connection or helping people. Like like he talks about in the book, like someone wanted to go to the Playboy Mansion. And then after he asked a lot of questions, that's not really what the guy wanted. He wanted an experience of something else.
Yeah.
The experience ended up being going to Napa Valley to a wine country and that kind of thing.
The polar opposite.
Yeah, polar opposite.
Yeah.
But it was because he was asking the right questions.
Yeah.
He thought he wanted all this, but he didn't really want that. You don't.
Yeah.
So those are a couple books that I've kind of listened to. Is there any type of like TV series or movies that you've kind of watched?
I mean,
that you've had some
nothing
impact
like
from?
really, not like the. No, we'll just normally turn on something that's like dumb. We've been watching Suits lately, so just to have some background noise, whatever.
That's
but,
funny.
Yeah.
Well, you know me, I'm always looking for something like that.
Yeah. Yep. So
the 2 I've listened that I would recommend to people is called The Logo. So the logo is about Jerry West, the NBA logo. It's a great series. Great guy. Very, there was some sad parts. The sad parts is like he got divorced, got remarried, and because he was so involved with all the NBA stuff, coaching, general manager, all that stuff, he didn't really spend a lot of time with his older kids. So he's got 2 sets of kids. And then he got remarried, and she was he was now home a lot. So she had him become more of a father.
Yeah.
You know, and he ended up getting 2 kids. And these 2 kids, actually, one is a general manager for one of the NBA teams. And so he's already kind of placed them. But the older kids kind of missed out a little bit.
Yeah.
What was hard for her is when it was weird, and he still does this he died, but he never said, "I love you."
Oh.
That was interesting to me.
Yeah.
You know, 2 is he would shake his older boys' hands.
Oh, crazy.
He wouldn't hug them. You know, so the things
just
like
not
that.
very,
As far as a business guy and
yeah.
stuff at the NBA, he's one of the best.
Yeah.
If not the best. I mean, Shaq talks about he's like my second father.
Yeah.
There's probably 5 or 6 people that have said that.
Yeah.
Kobe said that, all that kind of stuff. So that's sad. Soul Power is about the NBA versus the ABA when they kind of happen in the transition. There's some awesome stories there.
Yeah.
So I would suggest both those are on Prime. So I would definitely suggest those to people. Outside of so now let's talk about our families. So today is our kids' last day of school. So we're in May, the end of May right now, and so there's some stuff that we've kind of seen this last year. We were talking about right before, but what's some stuff that your family's currently going through that's maybe a hardship or success right now?
Success. Well, the success is
either or both.
We were joking. So my oldest is 14, Harper, and she said she was saying something about this year kind of being mid. And we were like, what do you mean? Like on paper and like the way that you look at the year, like
social media looks like she's had an awesome year.
She's had like an amazing year. She's won awards. She's a cheerleader. She's in dance. She's doing all these things. And to her, it was just like, And we're like, man, you're like living this.
Outside of asking her not like you're arguing, but did you ask her what would have made it?
Yeah,
a higher level.
Not as much. We kind of got into some other stuff, but I did ask just this last week I think it's because of this last week. So she had some dance tryouts on Monday and dislocated her knee. Oh, wow. So on the first night of tryouts. And so then she missed the second night of tryouts, missed her end of year dance. They have a big dance showcase. So she had to miss that. Then yesterday morning they had the cheer assembly for the end of year cheer assembly. So she couldn't cheer in it. And so she's missing all these things because she hurt her knee at the worst possible time.
Well, I remember you called me.
Yeah.
She's out for 8 weeks, right?
Yeah, she's down for a little bit, which again, so at the house, we're trying to figure out okay, how do we...
you feel like that's why she said that?
Yeah,
answer?
I think it was more kind of weighing because I'm looking back, she's National Juniors Honor Society. She won a writing award this year. She's done actually some pretty cool stuff. She's had a really good grade. I think some of it too, I think she might be referring to as her friend, as she's in junior high. Her friend group is really morphing right now. And so she's some of her really, really good friends are kind of going away.
That's always hard at the time.
She's trying to figure out some new friends. So she's trying to navigate being a kid.
Us as parents, we always try to tell them just so you know, majority of the friends that you're going to have in middle school aren't going to be the ones in high school. And then the ones in high school, 20, 30 years later,
you
are
might
going to be
have a couple.
So different friends.
Yeah.
I remember that this guy talks about, it was a speech. Talks about how you have different friends in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s.
Yeah, well, and you're a different person. You're a different person. You've got
sometimes
you
move a different area.
So for our kids to watch her kind of navigate her friendships, there's been some nights this year where she's definitely come home and we had tears and been man, my friends suck right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, friends, if you're listening, don't suck. But just kidding. But
actually, middle school and junior high is way harder than high school.
Well, and for girls, I think even more
for
so.
Girls.
For girls,
sometimes I hear the things that are said. I'm like, she really said that? You
crazy.
Feel like you want to call their parent, but you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah,
either.
That's the whole thing. Is this is where they kind of have to get a little bit of thick skin or learn how to navigate that as a person. So it was interesting because we were having a little maybe a pity moment. We were kind of just sad about there's just lots of transition, lots of things changing in the house, and it reminded me of a video I watched about Kyrie Irving when he tore his ACL. And I mentioned this a minute ago, but there's this it's right before the finals, the Mavericks are making a playoff push, and he just drives really hard. When he lands, he just topples over. So he tore his ACL for sure, but he has to finish shooting his foul shots. So he shoots his foul shot, makes his first foul shot, And then as he's getting ready to do his second foul shot, you can see him mouth the words, "Thank you, God." He just goes, "Thank you, God." And it's like, dude, to have that kind of mindset in that moment.
Yeah.
And then now that I've looked into it a little bit, it's something that he's practiced for a long time. And so it made, I kind of sat down with Amber and Harper, and I'm like, at this point, we have to be able to like say, like, no matter what our current status is, thank you, God. Like, we're here. We have all these other wonderful things. Yes, it's kind of crummy that, you hurt your knee, and luckily it wasn't worse. But it was a good little moment, I felt like, to sit with like my wife and my daughter. It was just the three of us, and we just sat. And I felt like it was like a really endearing moment to just be like, hey, at this time, like, let's just really shift our mindset as a home and as the examples in our home for the two littles. Like Harper really has a lot of pull with them. They look up to her so much for all these things. And so I was like, hey, let's kind of reincorporate this thank you, God, back into our home. And like, let's just make that a thing. Then if good, bad, ugly, like, God's got us, and we can lean on that.
That's
so
cool.
Anyway, it was kind of cool.
It seems like it's also like a combination of your book, a comfort crisis, like what the leadership and the
I wonder what
recognition
I'm trying to supposed to be learning right now. There's all these little indicators, but be grateful in that. So
Got anything fun for the summer?
Well, I mean, we always are our funnest thing. We're going to start off with a bang. We're going to do a two for one. We're going to a movie tomorrow, a matinee, and then a play tomorrow night at the Ruth.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh. That's going to be awesome. But we're going to go to we got a little family cabin that's up in northern Idaho that the kids look forward to all year long. Like, they can't wait. And
That's so cool.
That's like kind of going to be probably our big,
I know you guys
big
always
thing.
talk
We have a
good
lot of
about this.
dance and a lot of sports things and stuff like that too, but it'd be good.
Nice.
How about you guys? I know you got some big trips.
Yeah. So our year, first it was great. It's been a great year. I put down that, Garen, he started out by, in golf, kind of like the third, fourth JV. He made it all the way up to 8th varsity, and they have 8 spots, and then they won state. And then same thing with basketball. He was mid-level JV the first season. Last month of the season, they put him on the varsity team. And then they won state, and they were a great team. They won back-to-back, so they won the year before. They had some great seniors, and that was awesome to watch. He actually got his ring yesterday.
Oh, that's sweet.
That was pretty cool to put it on and stuff. And I told him, I said, man, I was one year I was a 4-sport athlete, and I never even got to this like state championship and lost, and just never did. But it's pretty cool to be a state champion.
What you
twice.
need to do now is in random family pictures, just slide it in and put your hand over his shoulder. And have his state ring. Just sneak it into stuff.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's been fun. Gunnar had an awesome year. We spent a lot of time together. He's now doing summer sales for Vivint. That's been kind of pulling on the mom strings. She would love him home, but she knows he needs to grow.
Knocking doors puts hair on your chest too, man.
Yeah, you did that.
Yeah.
Like I never did it, but I do know it's a big thing. And he's already gone through some hard stuff with it, from being just people don't qualify, so he's selling them, but they don't have credit or whatever it is. That's been tough. And then recently, that's been tough. I don't know. My wife might kill me to talk about this, but
it's real life.
Yeah, it is real life. But Hope, she's honestly at her age, she's one of the smartest of my kids that age. Right?
Sorry, the rest of you.
And but she does a half a year at school, and then the other half she does like stuff online with Khan Academy and stuff. But we were recommended to kind of apply for a private school here in South Weber called Ascend.
Yeah.
And I was out of town. I don't know if that affected it or whatever, but because they wanted the parents to be there. I was doing a charity event in Puerto Rico with John Maxwell. And anyways, Taryn went there. It was a full day thing. We didn't know it was an interview, but it was a full day thing. They were asking questions. And then 4 or 5 days later, they said, we're not picking you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that was tough, because, you always hate rejection.
Sure.
Also the rejection of you don't know why. Like, why did you choose this? I actually, I have a friend that, his daughter goes there. And so he's the one that kind of recommended it. So I told him about it, and he was shocked, and so anyways, you move on. But it was definitely something that took me back.
Sure.
Because I didn't know that that's what they're, that was the purpose.
Oh yeah.
And there was some things they said in the email I won't say on this, but it was, I don't think they know my family.
Oh yeah.
But we'll just kind of move on and go to the next thing. I I would say if everything was roses, you'll find something that would just trigger you.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the hardship for our family. Yours was Harper recently. And then I think lastly, I think we'll close up by like what is you and your family doing prior to or even moving forward, like charity stuff?
Charity.
Because I know charity is big for us.
Yeah, and honestly, when we were talking about that earlier, I was like, man, it's we've done a lot of different things. I come from a family like my family's big into really helping in the community and things like that. And I think even as we were talking about this earlier, I was like, we're not doing anything like really as a family proactively to be out. Not as much as we really should. We do little things here and there, but I'm like, we really should like figure out some things or something that we can really like get into and be doing a charity as a family or helping somebody or, underprivileged people. We've gone and, served Thanksgiving pies at the homeless shelter or like little things like a one-day thing here and there. But that got me thinking a lot that it's maybe time to like really, my kids are a little bit bigger now that we can just do that. And maybe there's never like a bad time to start. So
sure.
Yeah.
No, I feel the same way. And actually there's three things that come to mind. One is like, as you were saying, like the Ruth. Like I'm on the board of the Ruth, right? And we do little things that they kind of organize as far as charity stuff, because I'm on the board, and I have that. But then, like, I went to Puerto Rico and I was invited by a friend to meet John Maxwell and also talk about his charity. And his charity is what he's trying to do is trying to like bring in more, I would say, Christianity to schools, like to elementary schools. And he talks about how many schools. Yeah. And I donated. I think it's a great cause. But it also got me thinking, like, I don't want to be just a person that donates. I want to put more involved. And since I've been home, I've been trying to think of, like, what's some stuff that we can do this summer and kind of get out there. In addition to, like, I talked about, like, golfing with those three guys. One guy was saying that his son is going to leave for 10 days and go to I can't remember where, but somewhere other country and like kind of learn.
Yeah, my sister's done that a couple of years. They go to Mexico and they go work in an orphanage and some things like that. The other thing I was going to say local, now that I'm even thinking about it, is we should get Trevor, do you know Trevor Farnes, who owns Mountain Ops? One day Sadie and I went and did a thing called Conquer Hunger with him. Oh. So I took her out of school, which she was pissed, actually. She doesn't like leaving
I do
school.
Remember that day.
But yeah.
Finnegan was telling us about
it. Oh, yeah. Finnegan was there. So, yeah. So we went and we put together these little lunch packets for kids who have meal insecurity. So they have food insecurity. I guess in the school district, we did it for 2 out of 5 kids go home and don't like know if they're going to have dinner that night. And so or they don't have like, they have food insecurity, which is crazy to me that here in Utah we have that. It's actually kind of mind blowing, but we were able to do something like that. So I wonder if we even maybe this summer we can get our kids involved with maybe that or something even here local. So, but anyway, that might be fun.
Yeah,
figure it out.
Let me know. I mean, I'm all open. The one thing that as you know, like the last few years, I always the goal was always to take the whole month of June off. Yeah, right. And what we decided this year is to not do that, only because Garen felt like he didn't go to any of the team camps for basketball and golf, and that's one of the reasons why he was kind of the mid-level JV at first, and then kind of had to move his way up. Yeah. So he doesn't want to miss that. In addition to part of the golf team, they only lost one senior. Oh. So he already knows it's gonna be competitive. Yeah. There's gonna be new freshmen coming up. But the basketball team lost, I think, 6 or 7 seniors. Oh, hey. So. But so that we didn't do that, so I know we're going to have more time, here. One of my things, and I think I told you this, is to golf this summer. Yeah. I consider this my first season of golf.
Of really golf.
Really golf. I'd say last year 3 or 4 times. The year before, didn't even golf all summer. So I do want to golf more. So cool. Other than that, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I was going to say life's good. Life is life, and we're at the end of May, so it's like all of us are going to need to take a collective breath next week and be like, okay, because it's been really busy. It's been fun, and I know that like this time period of our kids' lives, like this is it, and that's why it's like we feel pretty blessed to be really involved with them, and things are good. So yeah,
good,
yeah.
Well, until next time, invest in yourself,
invest in your
future.
Hey, no, we always joke about that. Sorry, do it again. Go ahead.
Until next time, invest in the future.
Invest in yourself. See, we always mix it up. This is the Flat Bill Podcast, signing off.